I've had some incredible leaders to look up to through the years earlier on in my career at earlier agencies. And one piece of advice that I remember was be a duck, which meant how ducks are swimming really fast underneath the
Oh,
water,
yeah.
but on the top of the surface, cool as a cucumber,
I love
elegant,
that.
not sweating, just don't sweat the small stuff. And so I remember hearing that from a leader very early on in my career when you're like in spreadsheets all day and you're so stressed that a report needs to go out to a client by 5 p.m. and learning that early on in your career. And then that be a duck was very much a North Star to learn from.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff LaCosta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 99 Humans, where I am joined by the incredible Gila Wilensky. Welcome, Gila.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here today.
It's great to see you. Where does this podcast find you in the world?
I am located in the suburbs of New Jersey, and it's a lovely-ish pre-fall day.
Yes. Are you a pumpkin spice latte fan? Or I have been following whether it's fall or not by that.
Definitely not a pumpkin spice latte. I don't even think I can say that. I'm like a drip coffee year-round,
Nice.
diner quality type of gal.
That's kind of how I am, but I, admit it to being basic enough that every now and again, a pumpkin spice latte actually does taste good. Well, we are going to jump right into stories, but I want to make sure that we do your incredible experience some justice here with an introduction, because you have had some amazing leadership roles, and I'm super excited to kind of see the human side of some of these incredible resume bullets. But you have served in many, many roles across the marketing sphere, but working at Morpheus, where you were in client and media strategy, and then at WPP in a number of roles, from Essence, where you were SVP of media activation, Zaxxas, president of North America, and now working across all of the WPP organizations as the chief solutions officer. You certainly have one of those resumes that I think people look at and feel intimidated by. So congratulations on all your success, and thank you for helping us peel back some of the human pieces to what look like just amazing accomplishments, from your LinkedIn profile, let's say.
Thank you so much. I love our industry. I love what we do. I love working with incredible clients and an incredible ecosystem, and have had so much support at WPP Media through the years. So
it's amazing. I think I also, have worked in the advertising industry, and it's funny how it feels like nobody likes ads, and yet people who work in the industry love what we do. We love the chance to be a part of that. So help me understand, what does it mean to love working in this industry when sometimes it doesn't feel like the product is something that everybody's always jazzed about?
yeah, the thing that excites me about our industry is that it's always changing. There's always something new to learn. Human behavior changes, user behavior changes. There's always new media channels. There's always new problems to solve. And at the end of the day, it's helping businesses drive growth in different creative ways and applying, measurement and math to it. So I think the evolution and the constant change of our industry and embracing newness is what's really exciting and still exciting after all these years. And we love to do that. And that's really what drives me every day. So even though people might not love the specific ad, we'll get them next time on another one, right?
That's right. There's so much of
There's
it, I
always
think,
more
that
ads to
might.
serve.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's not the banner ad that, is winning over your heart. That's okay. Well, I'd love to start just by digging right into almost the namesake of this podcast, which is digging into the human side of this, because we do put a facade over the realities of people leading people a lot of the time. Not always on purpose, but it ends up looking pretty glamorous when that's not always the case. And I'd love to start just by hearing a time when leading felt particularly human for you over some of these incredible roles and companies that you've worked at.
Yeah. I love that question because leadership is human. It's imperfect. It can be messy, like the human experience. And so I think there's, always that idea specifically that, when tension is managed constructively, it's where the best ideas can happen. And just thinking back in my experience, one area that comes to mind is around creating new systems and processes. And as I mentioned, our industry is always evolving and changing, and we're constantly looking at, are we doing things the right way? Are there better ways to do something, faster ways, more effective ways? And so for me, one instance is when we're looking at new processes and systems and we're looking at things horizontally across many different groups, how something's going to impact the way many different people work. Everyone has a voice and has concerns about how they fit into that puzzle. And so I think looking back, like considering different, interdependencies, different voices, different functions, whether it's more operational or more strategic. There are so many different factors in making decisions that impact rolling out new systems and processes. And so really you can't predict them all when you go into planning phase. So I think that's the biggest thing is you do all this planning, you're looking at, different systems, the due diligence, the stakeholders, what we're going to create, and there's always going to be unknowns. And so you're really trying to go with the best path forward with a level of comfort when you don't know because you haven't rolled something out yet. So I think for me, just in those instances, learning and pressure testing and knowing and talking to your team about, you're not going to find the perfect solution, but what is the most viable thing that will achieve as many of our objectives as possible to create a new process or system is the courage to know, like, okay, this isn't going to be perfect, but it's going to help move us in the right direction and we can evolve it from there. And so for me, guiding people through, discomfort or change or the tension between, trying new things is often like almost as important as the destination as the thing you're creating, because that's where people stretch and learn and can collaborate.
This is an interesting one because, at least in my opinion, it's hard to win. You're saying it perfectly when you say, not everyone's going to be happy in the end. And often nobody is perfectly happy. Everybody's a little upset by something that's not working exactly like it should be. I'd love to unpack that a little bit more. Like how real are you about some of the things that may not be the day-to-day impacts, but are helping maybe at a different level that could create new pain, but are solving some other problem? Is this something that you're helping people understand and explore, or is that, you're shielding them from that and actually choosing not to reveal all the details because it just complicates things unnecessarily? Sometimes those decisions can be hard.
For sure. I think, listen, we have great leaders that at our organization and setting a vision and like what are we actually trying to achieve is like the first step. Like, okay, we need to solve for these 3 things, or we want to create these 3 things. We need to create a plan of action that will get us to that. We think it involves, it's like sort of math, right? You're having a hypothesis that the combination of these things will help us achieve our goal. And so for me, you have to have, what are we trying to achieve with people and like where are we trying to get to? And also a little bit of a reality check in how long it might take to get there, especially with systems and process and interdependencies. But I think you have to give the big picture, or you can get lost in the weeds and the details for sure.
Where did you learn that lesson? Because that sounds like sage wisdom, but I'm curious, where does that come from and how you ended up learning some of the things to do and not to do along the way?
I've learned from a lot of great leaders. And I think when you think about your own career, like if you were just given a task without the context or a project and you're like, why am I doing this? What is this laddering up to? Does this drive growth for one of our clients? Does this drive revenue? What are we trying to do here? A task or a project without that context just feels like a chore, that's something that's falling on your plate, that on top of all your other to-do list at work. And so just from my own experience, like I love knowing what I'm working on and how it ladders up to a bigger vision. And so I think it's really important to set that tone for your team, that you're connecting those dots.
Yeah. Bring us back to little Gila here. I'm curious if this is what you imagined yourself doing or how you got here, because you've also worked geographically in some interesting locations and done quite a bit of diverse things across your career. So how did that actually happen for you from childhood to where you are now?
Well, from childhood, I really wanted to be a chef, and that didn't happen, but that's another story.
Still cook or lose the whole?
I cook religiously. I love
cool.
I cook a lot. But when my culinary dreams were not going to become a reality, shall I say?
Can we pause there for a minute? Because that's actually, even though it's we all have that moment, or some of us don't, we pursue that. But do you remember when that happened, when you're like, this is not what I want to do, or this is not going to make enough money, or this is not for me after all?
Well, I never really worked in a kitchen. And so like I should have worked in a kitchen when I was younger, and so I really wanted to go to culinary school because I loved to cook at home when I was younger. And then during the college application process, just didn't make sense at the time. And I ended up chickening out, should we say, and still kept it as a hobby. But I think that was like, I had missed the boat, because then your culinary applications, I remember reviewing, and it's like, have you worked in a kitchen? I was like, did I need to do that? I thought if I just love to cook, I could show up. I'm only 17 years old. What do you mean? And then looking, now when you see like Food Network and Top Chef and you realize these people have been in a kitchen since they were like 12 years old, you're like, okay, I missed that boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so no culinary school for you.
No culinary school for me, but I do have an older brother and an older sister who were started in the industry. And so I just essentially wanted to learn from my older siblings and follow them into the industry. And that's how it all happened.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What about moments along the way that you felt were particularly formative for you?
Yeah.
Because nobody starts as a people leader, and somewhere you find that spark and go, maybe I do want to do that.
Yeah. I've had some incredible leaders to look up to through the years, earlier on in my career at earlier agencies. And one piece of advice that I remember was be a duck, which meant like, how ducks are swimming really fast underneath the water.
Yeah.
But on the top of the surface, cool as a cucumber, elegant, not sweating, just like don't sweat the small stuff. And so I remember hearing that from a leader very early on in my career, when you're like in spreadsheets all day and you're so stressed that a report needs to go out to a client by 5 p.m. and, learning that early on in your career. And then that be a duck was very much a North Star to learn from. And so I'm not always a duck. Sometimes I do get flustered.
I have to ask if you think that was like, do you think that was constructive feedback? Like, oh, you might want to think about this duck analogy, or was it just random advice that you absorbed at the time?
It was random. It was spoken on a panel, I believe.
Okay.
So it wasn't directed to me, but I have gotten that feedback too through the years. But like, that's part of the passion, right? Then you care so much and you really want to work hard. But that's a really great piece of advice from early on in my career that I still think about and still holds true.
Yeah. How did that end up leading to people leadership specifically?
I never had a specific goal for myself to be a people leader. The more I started growing, within the agency world and, in a very sort of lateral fashion, you grow, you take somebody under you as a direct report, you keep going. And it's something that I've realized how much I love. And now I can't think of doing anything else. I love working with different people with different skill sets than me, with different strengths. I'm not someone who likes to work on a team with all the same type of thinkers. And, WPP Media has so many different types of thinkers. And it's just something that I still have a passion for and I learn from every day. It's sort of like psychology, behavioral science, like what makes people tick. It's like you're constantly learning from your team and from others and from other, groups. And so I find that one of the most like fascinating parts of our industry.
Yeah. I have found leadership to be both the same and different than I expected it to be. Like there are a lot of folks on my teams throughout the years have said they wanted to be a leader. They want to be a people leader. They can't wait to be a people manager. And so maybe it wasn't as natural as it happened for you. I think it's a goal for a lot of folks to become that people manager at some point in their career. And some of the work of a people manager is a grind. It's just one-on-ones and creating those habits and doing the job every day. But there are also those moments where your particular leadership might shift the direction of a team, and you go like, gosh, if I wasn't the leader, this may have gone differently because someone would have done something differently. And I'm curious if you relate to that and if there are any moments in your experience that you feel like, wow, you really did see something shift because of your leadership specifically.
For sure. I think one of the things that I love about leadership that matches with my personality is I am a pretty decisive person. And so a lot of leadership is helping people make decisions, right? Like people come to you, they usually know what the answer is, but that's another story about psychology. They usually know the right answer, but they're still coming
That's
to
deep.
you.
You're saying it lightly, but yes, that's deep.
Know the true answer. And they're coming to you, should I go A or B, right? And so for me, in the different roles that I've had through the years, like I remember a point where I started in one of the new roles and I looked at the list of projects and priorities the team had. And like we were doing goal setting for the year, right? Like what's our team's going to be annual goals and the things we want to achieve. And I said, well, show me the goals from last year. Cause I was, newish in role. And I remember it was like 100 rows on an Excel.
Oh, wow.
And I remember saying, okay, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to like help people prioritize and reduce and focus on a direction ahead. And I think that decisiveness sometimes in saying, okay, fewer, bigger, better, let's focus on our big bets to allow people to then own what they need to do is something that I felt like that was an impact that I had. If I hadn't, then perhaps there might have been too many things to do, not enough time.
How did that go? Because it sounds like you were leading a team who their natural state was to create 100 goals. So there was some change management here. I'm guessing everybody just went, oh, okay, only 3 this time? Sure thing, no problem.
Yeah, I think, well, what it does is, well, first of all, when you start working with a team that is so ambitious and incredible multitaskers and has so much on your plate, you're like, wow, this is amazing, right? Like versus showing up and seeing like, you have no goals. You guys, what were you guys working on? Like, so I will take the 100 any day.
I like that. Yes.
They have ideas, they have ambitions. They really want to achieve so much, which is not something you can train. So I think people, when it gives them more headspace to focus and innovate a little bit more on fewer things, I think people appreciated the whittling of it down for sure. And we're happy to have something more manageable.
Interesting that you call out, that sort of ambition piece as being something that's harder to train. What's behind that? That's actually interesting. Like, is that something you really see as playing out as being true, that folks seem to either have that drive to work really hard or not? Or is that something that you actually are cultivating in some other folks?
I would say maybe it's not ambition. Maybe it's like curiosity as an important trait to look for when you work for people, just people who are constantly curious about how can we do this better? How can we do this smarter? How can we do this faster? How can we do a new thing that's not been done before? That's something that I think is a really important trait when you work with people day in and day out. So I think that piece is not necessarily trainable. It can be cultivated and culturally, but typically when you see someone and they're curious, they're probably curious about wine and food and the arts and sports, and it flows into many other aspects of their lives.
I like that. I've heard it said, look for people who are passionate, and it's very much what you're saying. They're passionate about wine, but thinking of it as the root being curiosity resonates with me. Are there other things, just out of curiosity, because you've done a lot of hiring of folks, are there other traits that you feel like are amazing that you're looking for in any interview that are really difference makers for the folks who are really successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd be remiss to not be able to say that obviously people who want to learn and embrace AI are going to be really the foundation of our industry and many other industries. We're investing so much in AI at WPP Media. It's really everyone's using it day in and day out with their tabs open in our tools that we've built. And so it's not, AI isn't just another tool in the toolbox, like it is foundational to how we operate. And so I think people who are curious and
Yeah.
embracing it, and there's so much that people can learn on their own just through their own research and own training. So I think that's another critical area for sure.
Tell me more about that. You're bringing up a huge elephant in the room. It seems to be changing every industry. It is driving all stock market results and earnings calls and things like that. How are you finding AI really making a difference for what you do versus places that maybe are more hype and not panning out yet?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, it's just foundational to how I'm starting to get things done and get my to-do lists and my our goals and what we do out. For me personally, like I use AI a lot to help with writing, to help with different tasks, to help do comparisons of different things. So it's not necessarily I'm doing data science personally, but ensuring that you're able to use different tools to help you do things faster and do things better and get to that decisiveness. I guess for me, as I describe myself as a decisive person, helping to make decisions. So, we use AI across the board for, reporting and optimization and insights and creation of our data with open intelligence and so many different things that we've been rolling out at WPP Media. So it is foundational. And I think for individuals, what are the things you can start to use for your day to day to just, it's like a tool in your toolbox. And it's also a foundational part of the way that we can work. And I'm sure everyone you talk to on the podcast has something to say about AI.
Well, lately, it's interesting. We've been doing this for a few years now, and thank you, because you're one of our very final 99 humans here. But we've seen, just in conversations, the huge spike in, of course, it makes sense with what's going on in the world, but it just is happening in such a short period of time that I also think it's interesting that there's some naysayers out there. There's plenty of people, and I think that's why you call it out, who maybe aren't curious about AI and are seeing all the potential risks, but not any of the potential gains. If you were to speak to somebody who is resistant, let's say, and saying like, I really don't want this to be a thing, and they're more concentrated on the potential negatives, how do you turn that kind of a story around, or maybe balance the optimism with some of those views yourself?
For someone who would be resistant, I guess.
Yeah.
Talking to them about how would you do something today without it and walking through the process. And what do you think that process is good? Do you think that can be improved? Yes, no. If it's perfect, great. It's sort of like that decision tree, right? If it's perfect, great. Don't knock it, right? But if there's something that can be improved or you can do something faster, why wouldn't you want to? It's like, do you want to ride a donkey? Do you want to ride a car? Like, the technology is always changing. Do you want to write a book by hand or would you like a printing press? Like some of these things are just, when you look back, you're like, oh, that was so obvious. But I'm sure people wanted to do handwritten instead of the printing press thousands of years ago at this point. They finally got on board.
Yeah. I think an analogy I just heard, which I really liked, was comparing it to electricity and the light bulb. That actually that was first sort of marketed to the world at the Chicago World's Fair. And it was incredible. And everyone saw this, went, oh my God, it's a whole new world. And then it caused an electrical fire and burned it to the ground. And that caused huge panic about what this invention was going to do to the world. But now, way after the fact, we have, processes and systems, things that you spoke about at the beginning that are helping us get a lot of the benefits of this amazing invention, but maybe avoid some of, yes, it can be really bad if it's lighting the city on fire every time that it's used.
I call that burning the first pancake, right? Whenever we create something new at work, I'm like, all right, who's going to get the burnt pancake? Like, who's our test case? The second pancake is always better than the first pancake.
Good cooking analogy here. You're bringing it full circle.
There you go.
Well, you are somebody who is juggling a lot with all the teams that you manage and things that are going on with all the change in the industry, AI. Tell me how you keep sane. What are some of those daily habits and things that you're doing to stay energized throughout your day and make sure that the things that really matter to you are getting your full attention?
That's a great question. Thank you for calling me sane. That was a very lovely compliment.
How do you stay sane? Not that there's moments where maybe that's not true,
I mean, I'm at the point in my life, I have two very small children.
What are their ages?
4 and 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
so this is a particular difficulty.
One of my management tips and tricks work on them, by the way. So you can't apply those to children. So just for anyone who's listening, don't do that. But I think creating space in your day to be focused and like not on your phone, not distracted, quality, like even if it's 10 minutes of quality time doing something, I think we have to see the benefits of that in other ways in our lives, because we're always multitasking. We're always, addicted to devices and doing a million things at once. And so I think whether you're doing something like exercising, running, being with your kids, taking a walk, cooking, whatever it is, like something that's keeps you not multitasking, single tasking, doing one task is really important. So that's something that has helped me. And then also being a super early bird is like the other.
What are we talking? What's your wake up time?
In the 5s. You got to be in the 5s.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a 5:55, so I'm barely with
you. You're in the club. That's the other one, because that gives you like a lot of morning.
When did you start that? Was that with kids, or were you doing this before?
No, always. Like,
wow.
I was never a great sleeper. Maybe I'm not sane, but I think for me, and again, some people are incredible night owls, but for me, that morning time of just, if you want to exercise, if you want to read, if you want to inbox, if you want to cook something for the week, that is very precious time to get ahead of the day.
Yeah. Those tips, I love them and appreciate them, and it's a good challenge just personally. But I'm curious if there were times where maybe those ever fell away and you found yourself in a really difficult, time management, energy management scenario. How did you pull yourself out of maybe when it wasn't all going the way that you hoped it was going?
Yeah. There are periods. Yeah. One interesting thing is that my body will actually tell me when that's happening. So I get twice a year carpal tunnel syndrome in my hand if I'm typing too much or using my phone too much. So I literally have a signal that's, okay, you need to not touch your phone for a week, or you have been typing too much and I can feel it. So that's not a tip for any people, I should say. But
you're such an optimistic personality. You're saying getting carpal tunnel, it's a good thing. It's a signal.
No, but it is a good thing, because I'm okay. I have to put this down.
Yeah.
So whatever that is for you, whether that's you feel yourself not having energy because you're not exercising or eating right, or work stressful, or something stressful at home, or there's so many things. I think you have to figure out what your tell is, and then you have to get yourself back. And so if anyone sees me wearing a wrist brace at work, oh my gosh, what happened? And it's just my biannual reminder to take it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Gila, we always end our episodes with the same question, but I'm going to maybe give it a little bit of a turn here, because we talked about young Gila in this conversation. But the question is, what advice do you have for us? But I'd love to actually hear, what advice do you have for little Gila? If you could kind of look at her and share something that would have helped you throughout your incredible leadership journey, what would you tell her that would have helped you either be more successful or, be happier throughout this journey, whatever that means?
Yeah, I think I would just say not be a duck, but in a similar vein, just like ride the wave. And one thing that I've not done is take myself too seriously through the years and just tackle things one thing at a time. And I think that would have been really great advice for little Gila, because I think I would have appreciated that advice much earlier on in my career. So just ride the wave, learn as much as you can, don't take yourself too seriously, and you'll be okay.
I love that advice. I think little Gila would certainly love that advice. Every kid needs to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you if they want to connect?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So Gila Wilensky, LinkedIn/Gila Wilensky. And yeah, that would be amazing if people wanted to connect.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that it gets in the show notes. Thank you so much for spending some time and sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation.
It's great to see you. Until next time.
Thanks. Bye.